Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scot McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
So, I mean, we use our networks to get the word out. But I think my biggest frustration, honestly, if I'm gonna be honest here.
Go.
So, you know, there are all of these women doing amazing things in Pittsburgh. And whenever I say something about invest in her and I say, you know, we have a pitch competition, I get a lot of, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready. And it frustrates the hell out of me.
Of course.
And I say to these individuals.
Then why are you in business is the only right way to answer that. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Pitchwerks podcast, or maybe it's your first time. Either way, this is going to be episode 33 with Samantha Bute Hartzman of Invest in Her. You may have heard of them, and it makes perfect sense that they'd be with us because they're known for the pitch competition. There's a lot more to it. But before we get started on that, let's talk about all the usual business. Pitchwerks.com is out there waiting for you. Pitchwerks. So are the social media channels out there. Hit us up. Make sure you stir up the pot a little bit. Just say hello. And we're always looking for a rating and a review. It helps people to find the show. 5 stars. I think the Pitchwerks podcast is really useful, and I wish there were 3 more just like it. 1 star. Hey, you know what? 1 might be more than we need, actually. Either way, however you feel, give us a star rating. Make sure you give us some feedback that we can act on. Always looking to get the word out. Make sure that people find the show and they can read the ratings and reviews and know whether or not the show is a good fit for them. All right, so let's talk to Samantha, find out a little bit more about this pitch competition and maybe what else is on the horizon for Invest in Her. All right, let's jump right in with Samantha Bute Hartzman. Samantha, I'm going to call you Sam. Is that cool?
It's perfectly fine.
It's going to have to be because I've already made the decision. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, the podcasting business is booming, so life is good.
Good.
Now, tell me about, in fact, I mean, I know you came ready to pitch what you're working on, right? I don't want to just throw you into the cold water right off the jump, though, right? So we're going to get a pitch from you later. But how about if you start just by sort of setting the table for everybody about what Invest in Her is all about?
Yeah. So Invest in Her is the region's only all-female pitch competition. I should actually say that we're home to the region's only female pitch competition.
Okay.
Because
it's an interesting distinction.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that people understand that Invest in Her does more than host a pitch event. So the reason we ended up doing a pitch event in the first place was we had this data at our fingertips around the growth of women-owned businesses, and that next to men, they aren't achieving the same level of growth from a revenue standpoint, from an investment standpoint. Like the dollars are just not coming in. And we had to think about how do we solve that problem? Mm-hmm. And so to your point, I mean, we really looked at, well, this pitch thing that's happening, there's usually money involved, but really what it is a platform. So you get these people in a room, you have them showcase their business ideas, and even if they don't walk away a winner, somebody has heard it. Yeah. And now they're interested, and now they want to learn more. So we figured the best way to solve this gap was to invite the investment community to an event where they could see all of these women and hear about their business. And then we could get those investment dollars flowing. So it wasn't really about, we needed to create an all-female space in this market, in the pitch market. It was that we needed to solve a problem, and the pitch offered us a vehicle to do that.
That makes all the sense in the world. From an analytical perspective now, it's not, to borrow a phrase from someone else, right? It's not a solution, that just sort of like was in search of a problem, right? Mm-hmm. You actually saw something and addressed it with, we need to work on the refinement of these pitches because the revenue growth is not up to what it could be.
Yeah.
Revenue growth is it's a near and dear subject to my heart, right? So where are you measuring from? So when you say you've got this data about where they grow from or how they grow, where did you start, or where does the study that you're citing, start looking at, is it really early seed, like we just kind of started in a garage, or are they looking at a bunch of companies at relatively the same maturity level? How does that measurement look?
Yeah. So the study itself, I can't remember if they factored in the age of the companies. I think there was, early stage. The problem was that as businesses, as the longer that they were in business, the less money that they were earning. So we focused on early stage businesses primarily because if they have the momentum at the beginning, then they should be able to maintain that momentum. Because a lot of what we're doing is trying to change habits too. So from the entrepreneur side and the investor side. So
I was actually just going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to build those good habits.
Yeah. So if we start young, so if we start with a newer business, what we can do is change that entrepreneur's thinking of how they can find the investments themselves, or they can ask for it, or they can research it on their own. So the studies also indicate that a lot of women start businesses out of passion, or there's an emotional connection, or they saw a need and they solved a problem.
I hate this. I hate this whole line of thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that seems like, and forgive me for sitting in your chair for a minute, but what it seems like, it's like that makes them sound as though they're weird. Right?
Yeah.
Like they're not
that men
normal.
don't start businesses that way.
Some people start businesses out of passion, and a goodly number of them happen to not have a Y chromosome. Sorry to cut you off there. It's
good. No,
you stepped on a peeve, I guess.
No, it's totally fine. And we struggled with this too. Like we've talked about this, that there's a lot happening right now in the political landscape that is around differences, right? That we're highlighting these groups of people who feel like things are not in their favor right now. And I certainly don't want to keep peddling the same old thing about, women are different than men. I actually don't think that they are. I think their businesses essentially are the same. I mean, the difference to me is that women don't necessarily know how to navigate the investor community the same way. There's a discomfort in asking the questions, or who to ask the questions to. And let's be honest, the investment community is predominantly male.
There it is.
So when you have to go ask a man to invest in your bakery, you get a lot of pushback. You get a lot of like, why is this sustainable? Why do I want to invest in your bakery? And not to pick on.
Well, it's two different mental models.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking to a person who invests for a living about baking.
Yep.
Right? So these two things don't typically end up in the same sentence. Right? And you're just like, okay, well, someone who really has a passion for investment and 10x returns and those kinds of things isn't going to feel my pastry shop at all. They're just not going to get it. And if you have even less kinship with them because you feel there's an identity problem, it just adds to that weight that you feel like you've got in your backpack. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, tell me if you think I've got it wrong.
No, I mean, I think everything that, we're talking about is all part of the problem, but we have to reach out to all the different, people in this space and say, why are you thinking the way that you think? And why do you hesitate to ask the question? I mean, I've seen with entrepreneurs too, especially now that we're working with women. So like tech is a really big space, and we're in Pittsburgh, and CMU is launching an app every day. And, all the startups.
Carnegie Mellon University is the tech capital of like the Eastern US.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're doing, we're seeing all of the startups now have some sort of application component. So we've had people come to us who've applied to invest in her that have a really great business idea, and then they throw some application component into it that has no business being there. And you go, why did you do that? So there are a lot of people who feel that they have to respond to what is currently in vogue or what the investor community wants to see instead of being 100% themselves.
Yeah.
So we're fighting all of these battles. We're trying to help women entrepreneurs see the value in what they bring to the table, period, without having to change anything that they're doing. And we're trying to articulate to the investor community that there is potential here. You can still get a return in investing in this woman who wants to, open a grocery store. Like, there is potential. And I'm a firm believer in, if you invest in a local community, there are all these returns regardless of financial. You're employing people. Like, I always argue with everyone on the Invest in Her board that I'm like, is there job growth potential? Like, can we employ people through this?
Yeah.
Can we see a change in the community? Because that's just as valuable to me, being a local Pittsburgher, seeing
Well, you
that
touched
change.
on something cool. How are the contests judged? Is there a rubric that gets sent out in advance and then people can kind of sort of study to the test? Or is it kind of a surprise?
These are trade secrets.
I'm sorry. I've got to represent the people.
Yes, no. So what we have, we're going into our third pitch. So every year we refine, we reevaluate our process, but we've been pretty consistent on this approach. But so you apply, we review them. So there's 7 board members and co-founders of Invest in Her. So we do the first pass. And last year we implemented an interview component.
Yeah.
And that helped us narrow it down to our finalists. But what we've really enjoyed is having the judges be the final pick, in determining the winners. We give them our criteria.
So you've got people from outside the organization judging to sort of to bring in specific viewpoints and perspectives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we pull people who are in the investor community. We pull people who are in this, startup space that have years of experience or that, we've seen do something cool. We've pulled in entrepreneurs as well to really ask those tough questions and to see, how there's growth potential or there isn't, or, where the flaws are in the business. But it's been good that way.
So do you see, this is a peeve of mine, the Shark Tank influence, right? Where things start to get a little sensational. I hate this aspect of it. I really find that to be, and I understand it's a popular show. I understand why it's a popular show.
Yeah.
I understand that the people that go on it with their eyes wide open about the fact that this is not really the way people should be treated, right?
Yeah.
But they know what they're walking into. Is that affecting the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think so. Where that comes into play is the fact that this is still a competition, right? At the end of the day. So you get a lot of feedback and criticism about the judges' questions. Were they asking the right thing? We also have, we've come back to the table and said, like, did we really think that was a valuable aspect to evaluate this business on? But I've taken the approach, this might be my own personal mission, that everyone who makes it to the final round, there's value in what they brought to the table. And even if you don't walk away with a cash investment, you're still investable, in my opinion. And so I want to do everything in my power to get you connected. And I think that entrepreneurs need to see the value of being, like I said, on that platform. So you have a room full of 150 people who now know something about you. If you don't capitalize on that, then something's wrong. So whether or not the judges see everything that you brought or understand your business completely or loved it or whatever, you need to see that you were given this opportunity and now you have to do something with it.
Do you have any sort of resources to get people ready for it, or do they kind of have to come prepared on their own?
Yeah, I think you have to do the research, see what we've done in the past 2 pitch competitions. We have a lot of great partnerships with organizations that are offering seminars, workshops, things that get people, prepared for these kind of things. Our hope is that we can become that source as well, without duplicating efforts. So, we understand that we've tapped into a market that not everyone is able to access, just through our networks and influence. So we want to make sure that those entrepreneurs that are coming to us have something to, that they can learn from, that we can offer.
I do think that people need a mental model to work from, and they need to do it enough times that they've got muscle memory on their side when they're in the spotlight.
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough how important it is to sort of know first act, second act, third act.
Yeah.
Because when you're up there and you're wondering sort of where is this going and how do I get it back on track, that mental model's probably going to save your pitch and therefore save your entry into the contest.
Yeah.
And if it's not a contest, but in fact your livelihood, like your actual mortgage on the line, it's that much more important. But I watch as some of these different factors start to conspire with each other, where it's like, okay, so the Shark Tanky sort of aggressiveness of the questions and the interplay with the judges, and the less comfortable, because a lot of these product people that start these things, they're not pitch, friendly. They're chief technology officers. They are bakers to use, or grocery, they didn't come up from a culture of sales and marketing and slick delivery and multiple thousands of deliveries over time. And I think it all adds up to, if you don't have a mental model to kind of walk yourself through, you're going to kick yourself later and you're probably going to lose.
Yeah. So we learned from that, actually. The first year, we had a video submission. And we thought that this was a good way to start that process, right? So you're going to do a video. But then we found out that video submissions really, they serve very little purpose other than being cool and visual. And you're just like, oh, that's neat.
I hate video submissions, and I'll tell you why. Because people can't help but judge video quality.
Yeah.
When it's not a criterion.
You focus on the wrong thing. So
you
just, we gave them time limits. We criticized people who went over. It didn't work. So when we went into year 2, we said, no. Like, we'll do interviews and then we're going to do pre-pitch sessions. So once you became a finalist, you actually had to go and practice your pitch, which was amazing because we found out in the first year that we had people who had never live pitched their business ever.
Not surprising to me.
Right.
Years ago, it was surprising to me. The first time I realized that this is not a natural behavior for entrepreneurs, it stuck with me for like a week. It was like, how in the world have you gone this far without doing it? And I think it's because they're waiting for an embossed invitation. Yeah. And I'm being sarcastic and horrible about it, but I mean it.
Well, yeah, and this is a huge issue. I mean, like, people just don't do anything unless they've been asked formally to do it. Or it's like, I will give you $10,000 if you just stand up in front of a room full of people and say something. Oh, okay, then I'll do that.
Well, then I better spend the next month getting ready for it. Yeah. But instead, if you say, like, and I say this to people all the time, if you were able to just explain to people in one sentence what you can do for them, you could literally change their lives.
Yeah.
I'm Scot. I have a podcast that tells you what the real stories are behind some of the successes and failures out there so that you don't have to live through them to learn from them. Hey, Scott, that sounds like it might work. Maybe I'll listen to your podcast, right?
Yeah. I mean, so we've seen this, and like, we've had businesses that their ideas are amazing, but they can't convey them. Like, we can see it on paper, but they can't talk about it. So we go, well, if you can't talk about it,
you got to do the reps.
Like, how are we going to help you out here? So we did the coaching sessions. I think that we found that that's really valuable. We need to keep doing that. Having more opportunities for people to just talk and share their ideas. And that might be the thing that's really missing. And a lot of what's out there already is that there isn't enough opportunity to have the entrepreneur stand up and say something. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talking at them. But when do you say, hey, why don't you come up here and tell us a little bit about what you do? And we can, listen and learn and maybe give some feedback. And there's no pressure, right? So usually they don't do this until there is pressure, right?
Yeah.
How do we fix that problem?
Well, but I mean, how useful is that information when you look at how many of these businesses fail?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them, no. Don't take that the wrong way. They don't fail because they're not putting themselves into these situations where they can, in one sentence, explain their sometimes normal, completely mainstream idea, and sometimes off the wall, but truly visionary, innovative idea, right?
Yeah.
If you can't say it in a sentence, your chances go way down. And if you're just waiting for somebody to ask you, hey, is it okay if I send you a purchase order? It's going to be a long wait.
Yeah.
In terms of a pool of entries, what are we looking at here?
So we've seen about 40 applicants each year.
Nice.
And we narrow it down to about a dozen, and then we get down to 6.
And then how do they how are they made aware of the fact that the contest is even available?
So, I mean, we use our networks to get the word out. But I think my biggest frustration, honestly, if I'm gonna be honest here.
Go.
So, there are all of these women doing amazing things in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And whenever I say something about Invest in Her and I say, we have a pitch competition, I get a lot of, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready. And it frustrates the hell out of me.
Of course.
And I say to these individuals.
Then why are you in business is the only right way to answer that. You're in business.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
I mean, are any of these people not in business?
Yeah. No, all of these individuals are telling me they have a business.
If you ever tell me, and this is standing, hey, I'd like you to come and pitch your business in front of a room full of people. I don't know if I'm ready then you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah. I mean, this is yes, this is the biggest frustration. But this gets back to changing behavior, right? So me, a woman.
No, you're helping people.
Going to another woman and saying,
I'm not helping.
I want you to pitch no, you're not. I want you to pitch your business. And you say to me, I don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like,
You're much more helpful than I am.
I can't.
I'm school of hard knocks in them, right?
So if there are any asks that I have of the world, and money being, of course, number one, because that's always what you need. But number two is for all of these women out there that have businesses to stop waiting. Like, if you need anything, just ask us and then come and pitch your business. Like, period. Just do it. Like, there is no reason at this stage to not be out there. Like,
believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You really do have to.
It's just insane.
I'm a man.
What?
You may have noticed the beard's almost a dead giveaway.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'll say this. It does seem like there is a certain amount of programming that says to women to be a little bit more cautious, to not stick themselves out there as much. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, and all of that is awful, and I hate it.
But you're not disagreeing that it exists.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, so I work in corporate America, and we get lectured to a lot about asking for raises, asking for promotions, and that women don't ask.
This seems to be a hot thing.
Oh, yeah.
To explain the pay gap, they say, well, it's because women don't ask.
Women don't ask. Well, I don't know. I ask for a lot of things. I ask for all the opportunities. I mean, I think I've certainly worked with people and seen people who don't and don't feel that they have any reason to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's so frustrating because, people are constantly trying to paint women into a box and like, this is what women think and this is how they operate and this is what they do. And I'm like, did you ask them that? Or are you just using, historical knowledge and painting a picture? Because I mean, there are men who are advocates for women every day who do amazing things to support women and sometimes don't get credit because they're still men. And we feel like we can't give them ownership of something because they're a guy.
Yeah. In terms of what you're saying about why the women get put into what you call the box, right?
Yeah.
I've been kicking around for a bit, and that to me strikes as people trying to explain something so they don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? If I can give you what sounds like a common sense answer, and this happens all the time.
Yeah. Someone
who is entirely unencumbered by fact will just from whole cloth be like, well, obviously that's because of, and then somebody in the room will be like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't mean it's true.
No.
It's not based on any data. It's just like, well, based on this one person I used to live next to and this anecdote that kind of strikes me right.
Yeah.
Like, well, now we can close the book on that. Women just don't ask for raises. Thank God that's over, right? It's too easy of an answer, I guess. I mean, we came a long way around on it. But what I'm really saying is I do think it's too easy and dismissive of an answer. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you're digging at sort of what the right answer might be and whether or not there actually even is a problem, let alone an answer, right? Because one of the possible outcomes is just the fact that there's different personality types and who knows?
Definitely.
When you're trying to explain to somebody the value of being in the contest, I'm sure you have a pitch of your own.
Yeah.
You ready for that?
I mean, I guess so.
Let's do a pitch. No. Lay it on me.
So the pitch for being in the pitch is that you need to be able to articulate your business in writing and in person. And having a platform like Invest in Hers Pitch Competition allows you to reach an audience that may not have heard or seen anything about your business. And now you have tapped additional clients, customers, investors, allies, mentors. So to you, this is the biggest value for your business and for your growth potential. So this is why you want to be a part of it.
I like it. There was actually a ton of value in there, and it was very compact.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's key, right? Because again, it's like if you can't explain it in a brief fashion, you may not fully understand it, right? When I look at a pitch, I'm trying to give people a taste off the buffet, right? And then you watch, and you're trying to see what they reacted to, where all of a sudden you see their wheels start turning.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll look away from you and be like, oh yeah, I got them, right? Like that there was interesting. So you mentioned like, well, this might be your avenue towards a mentor. How many of us could use someone who's seen the road already and tell us what lies ahead, or someone that just can connect you to somebody else? But you back to what we were saying 10 minutes ago. It's repetitions are the key.
Yeah.
And you have to get out there. When you first came up with Invest in Her, when this was like a drawing board, you said it was a project. Did you have a goal in mind where you were trying to go? Is it a national goal? Is it a local goal? Where did you want to go with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that you asked that question, because I don't know that all 7 of us would have the same answer.
Yeah.
I think as an organization, as a growing organization, that's definitely a pain point a little bit, because we're trying to sort that out. I'm someone who's very stubborn, and I'm not very good at hearing no, and that I can't have things. So, of course I want to take over the world.
This is why we get along, by the way.
I mean, I'm not stopping. So until there are physical barriers, I will
and
not
even then,
stop.
sometimes we're going to test
I'm
whether or
gonna
not they're
climb
strong
those
enough.
walls. Yeah. So I think that, where we want Invest in Her to go, like I'd mentioned earlier, I don't want us to be known as just a pitch event, right? So, there are people in this community in Pittsburgh that are doing wonderful things to support female entrepreneurs. My goal is to figure out what they aren't doing and do that.
Right.
We've talked about creating a fund. Are we the next Act Fund? Doing something to actually put dollars in businesses ourselves.
I don't know if I'm feeling that, right?
No, I don't think, and maybe it's that finance side of me, working in corporate America, that I think, like money is just the driving force of all things. But
but like in one breath, you were like, well, let's go where everybody else isn't.
Yeah.
Right. And the next one, you're like, but what they really want is money.
Right.
And those two things crash into each other really, rather unceremoniously, right?
Absolutely.
I want
to be a place that fosters growth and development, right? So I don't want to, the pitch is too narrow for me. It's just like one and done. We can showcase these entrepreneurs. We can see what happens next, but we don't have any, I'm not that emotionally invested now, right? And I want to be emotionally invested in them. And I want to see them grow and be a part of that. Like I want to bring them into my home, right?
But devil's advocate, right? McDonald's is based on the hamburger, but hamburgers aren't what they make money on.
Yeah.
Right. When you have something that resonates, and you do, right? You said it, like it took on a life of its own, where now you're in this space where you're not exactly sure how you became known for the pitch and nothing else. You're like, well, you have to expand beyond the confines of this identity. That's the sound of resonation. That's something that you tapped into and you're like, wow, that's bigger than I thought it was. I don't know that I want to run away from it. I think you build on it. It's the rock that you put your church on, right? Everything else can kind of come off of it maybe. And understand, you can make 1,000 worlds out of stuff I don't know, okay?
Yeah.
I'm blabbing into a microphone because they let me. But if that's where you resonated, and resonation's a hard thing to get your hands on. Millions of us are out there every single day trying to find what it is that makes people stop from whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
If you can just branch off of that a little bit and just see if it's still as strong there, I think that's a safer approach where you're blending the goals of tomorrow with the value you've got today.
It's nice.
It's really, I don't even know why I said that.
I think Walt Disney said that.
No, there's a better way of saying it, which is like, you're not closing any doors.
Yeah.
The way I said it was a little vague. It's like, you don't want to close doors.
No, absolutely
And
not.
money definitely opens a lot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like people are going to understand it unless it's the prize at the end of the contest. And in that case, it's very reductive.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to give a lot of bad news. You give great news now, though.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's not, I'm not being patronizing because you're telling people like, hey, I'm really glad you showed up and look at all the people. You said it yourself in your own pitch. You met allies and mentors and, people that can help.
Yeah.
I think if you reduce it to money, it becomes a closed door thing and it becomes a lot more sharp elbows.
Yeah. I mean, I think my I mean, to your point, like what money doesn't bring me is that, for lack of a better word, like the investment in the entrepreneur, like in the person, in the process, right?
Because of the scarcity of the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it then gets reduced to like a very technical, like I give you dollars and you go do this. But I mean, like we are so interested in how these businesses come to be and how do they grow and where are they going and how can we foster that? And it's more than just like, okay, now I'm going to take a stake in your business and like sit on the sidelines and be interested. No, like I want to be actively interested.
That's why the show works for me. I mean, seriously, like I'm in my sweet spot because I'm lifting people up and I'm never turning anybody away in any substantive way. Right. Granted, there's a bunch of people who want to be on the show who at the bare minimum won't, like I can say no today, right? Because maybe maybe there's a very similar organization to yours that wants to be on the show after hearing you, right? Yeah. Well, I have to say no to them because the audience still has to get unique value, right, from the variety and the changing roster. But that's not no forever. And I'm not going to make or break anybody. Yeah. Right. It's not like I'm writing a $100,000 check and be like, here, prosper with this.
Yeah.
The audience is who benefits from this more than anyone because they get to hear you say, like, this is what I'm afraid of. This is what worked for me so far. This is what worked in a weird way. And now I have to contend with everybody thinks of us as a pitch competition.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You're lifting everybody in the room, you want to get a prize.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the money just feels like it's the opposite of that. And I've been wrong, again, a million times. So take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's more true to you to continue to build on the mission you were trying to solve those years ago, where you said, well, how do we get this revenue gap closed? What do people need? And if it's pitch help, it's pitch help.
I mean, one thing when we did the first year, and what I think is the best aspect of the pitch event is we crowdfund for the prize.
Right.
So you literally are investing in a business. Like you literally, by giving us money, have now supported a female entrepreneur.
That's incredible.
Like we don't take anything. We don't get paid. We're all volunteers.
That needs to be in your pitch. Not a joke.
Yeah.
Because if you would tag that on at the end, now you have given me a way to contribute value to the world.
Yeah.
I like that. We got to include that in your pitch from now on.
Okay, deal.
All right. So if somebody does want to get involved, how do they do it?
Yeah. So they can reach out to the Invest in Her team, investinher@gmail.com, and say, I want to help. We have a website. It's weinvestinher.org. There are all those different channels. We're on social media. You can just send an email my way and I'll respond. So.
And you do this all after a full-time job too.
Yes.
This is a lot of work.
It is, yeah.
Take it from a guy who knows. I do this every week, right?
Yeah. Actually, I mean, all of us do. It's insane. But I think that it brings unique value as well. Like we all have given our lives to this. I mean, at the dismay of our personal relationships, I'm sure. But, everyone understands.
We're sorry, Mr. Hartzman. We're very sorry.
Yes. It's definitely been a labor of love. And we're all doing this because we believe in the mission so much that, we're willing to stay up late and give up our weekends and make it happen.
Sam, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you came in.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time. That's it for this week's Pitchwerks podcast. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Really glad that you spend your time with us. Make sure if there's anything we can do for you, hit us up on social. Send us a note through the contact form. Love to hear from you. Thanks again to Sam Bute Hartzman for stopping in and sharing some things about the pitch competition that Invest in Her works on. If you are moved by her mission and you think that you might be able to help, please reach out to them through the web address that she gave. Otherwise, I'll just catch you in about 7 days.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com. pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name. Pitchwerks.